Hi, how are you? Everybody's good? It's great to see you all. Thank you for being here today. Yeah, I just got back from, let's see. Okay, we're going to go between the slides and the video. But yeah, I just got back from Korea. I just landed, not last night, but the night before, winning this unbelievable award around global empowerment for women worldwide. And one of the things that just really stood out to me, I was so appreciative to receive this award from Ban Ki-moon, who is the former Secretary General of the United Nations. And what was so humbling about receiving this award is it was given in recognition of the opportunity and potential that women as leaders and entrepreneurs who are creating economically viable ventures, the power and potential that we have to truly change economies and change the world together. And so to come back off that trip and be able to be with you all today, it's just amazing, because today is a day that is actually 7 years in the making, and we are launching the beta version of our product, Mint Her, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. But this is our way of building a platform to help match women entrepreneurs to the funding resources that I don't know about you, but I know in building my companies I've struggled to gain access to for many, many years. This now fundamentally solves that, and you all are the first to gain access to that. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. Woohoo! We're going to talk about 3 things today. We're going to talk about the call to have courageous leadership. But I also want to talk about the power of why prep and training is critically important to growing our ventures, and then extend an invitation to join us. And if at any point during this presentation you feel so inspired to kind of get in there early, you'll see at the bottom of your screen right there, you can text Mint Her to that number, 66866, and start getting into the Mint Her system. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that today. So we're excited to have you join us. To kick us off, I wanted to take a moment and just do a little bit of an icebreaker. And what I'd like to do is, for those of you, not everybody's sitting right next to somebody, but what I'd like for us to do is just take a moment, and if the person to the right will turn to your person to the left, would you please just introduce yourself, say, I'm a founder, and if you have raised money before or you haven't, would you just say the biggest challenge to raising money is that you faced? So would you share what that is, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with that. So can everybody kind of group up just a little bit? Okay. All right, this is an empowerment session. And the guys, we always say we will not elevate to our fullest potential without the guys. So we need you guys in there too. This is for you too. All right. Okay. And now if you'll switch, and the person to your left will do the same thing to the person on your right. Biggest challenge that keeps you from raising money or has kept you from raising money, in your opinion? Good. Are we all complete? All right. So what I'd like to do with this information is this. We're going to talk today about how we are fundamentally going to solve the global access to capital issue for women worldwide. We have less than an hour here together, and so I'm going to get through this presentation as quickly as we can, and then I want to open it up to questions. And there's no question that's off limits here, but for whatever you just shared with your colleague, if we get through this presentation and I have not addressed an answer to what you just said is your biggest challenge, I would invite the partner who listened to the person to encourage them to make sure to ask the question, so that by the time you walk out of this room, and I promise you, like I promise you, I live, breathe, eat, sleep your success as women entrepreneurs. And again, thank you for the guys in here, because we've got a lot of guys involved with us, and we'll never elevate to our fullest potential if we're not doing it with the guys. And our platform is open to the men as well, but it is targeted to the women. And I am obsessed, absolutely obsessed over your economic success in having the opportunity and potential to build the ventures that are fundamentally going to change the world. So by the time that you leave this session today, I never, ever, ever, ever want to hear again, there's not a place that I can come where I'm not going to be able to have the opportunity and potential to gain access to the help, to the mentorship, the community, the funding that I need to be successful. This is what I have dedicated my life to, and I am so honored and thrilled to bring this out to all of you. So I want to make sure when you walk out of here today, you have the tools, tech, and resources you need to power your success forward as you're building your ventures. Does that sound good? All right, all right. Okay, so what are we bringing out today? So we're bringing out the new platform called Mint Her. Mint Her is really a nod to mobile money mentors. So we always say that the #1 thing that keeps women from starting, growing, or scaling a venture is actually confidence. We'll cover that in a moment here in the presentation. But we solve confidence by taking action. We take action when we have mentorship. So Mint Her is an automated platform that fundamentally helps match women entrepreneurs to the revenue, investor, and debt capital that you've been seeking and that's been trying to find you. And our goal is that by the end of 2020, we will help allocate out $1 billion in capital resources through Mint Her to all of you who we've been looking for some period of time, because with that $1 billion in capital resources in your hands, one of the things that we saw at Dell when I was the entrepreneur in residence at Dell, and I went to Dell to learn how do we build a technology platform that has the power and potential to reach 1 billion people by 2020. And we learned in building out that platform and in launching a $100 million fund that became a $250 million fund, that if I give you $1, it gives you leverage to go out and buy 10x worth of products and services to build and scale your company. And with those resources, with that ability to build and scale your business, you can then collectively create another 10x worth of global market impact. What that means is by getting $1 billion of capital resources out into your hands, we have the potential to enable you to purchase $10 billion of product and resources and create $100 billion of global market impact. When I think about how are we going to change the world together, if that's not one of the key ways that we're going to do it, I don't know what is. So this is our goal with the platform, and we really invite you to be thinking about and help us spread the word about you no longer have to or never would build your company without Mint Her. You know, all of us start our businesses and we get LinkedIn. Well, now if you want to be financially successful and viable, hop onto Mint Her and get that help and access to the resources needed to move your business forward. So let's talk for a moment about courageous leadership. I mentioned that this is a platform that was started during my time at Dell. And had it not been for a visionary group of people led by both Michael Dell, of course, who saw the power and potential of enabling women entrepreneurs to be successful around the world, imagine the difference we can make, but also that guy in the blue shirt over on the left. His name is Steve Felice. Steve was the he was the president of Dell, and he was the person that I worked alongside. And Steve was the person that when I showed up for my first meeting before I was the entrepreneur in residence at Dell, and I was so nervous about this meeting I was going to have because I thought, when I go and meet with Steve Felice, what am I pitching him? I had been inspired on this idea of empowering 1 billion women by 2020. I knew we needed to build out this global tech platform, but what was I going to say when I had this meeting with this guy named Steve Felice? Was I going to admit that I was going to empower 1 billion women by 2020? Or was he going to think I was just nuts? Would he think this is just a crazy idea? And one of the things that I have learned now in working with guys like Steve and guys like Michael Dell and people who are true visionaries, I just mentioned Ban Ki-moon from the United Nations, people who are thinking about how can we create impact in the world, how can we make a difference in the world. These people are looking for people just like you, who have visionary ideas, who have this desire and this passion and this purpose to take your idea and turn it into a venture that can change the world. And these people are looking for us to show up and give them those big, hairy, audacious ideas. And so when I had that first meeting with Steve Felice, I went in and I simply said, Steve, I don't know what else to say to you except I'm here to empower 1 billion women by 2020. And I know the only way that we're going to make that happen is by building a global technology platform that has the ability to provide access to women, to the mentorship, the education, the funding, the technology that they need to build, start, grow, and scale their ventures. And it was a guy like Steve that said, I'm going to take a shot on you. Had that not happened, I often say today, I would never be where I am today had it not been for a guy like that who gave me the chance. And once I left Dell to start building Empowering 1 Billion Women on its own 2 feet, he was the first outside investor to come into Empowering 1 Billion Women. This is how much he believes in, and they believe in, the power and potential of connecting with women just like you and doing everything that they can to provide you access, just like the men have had for years and years and years, but access to those tools, technology, and resources needed to start, grow, and scale our ventures. So in Mint Her, in bringing this out to the market, this is the world's first financial optimization and money matching platform. Of course, there's AngelList. I love AngelList. I'm on AngelList. That'll match you with angel investors. But there never before has been a place that you can step in and say, how do I really do this? How do I really get access to that revenue, those revenue opportunities? How do I get an opportunity with Dell? How do I get access to that investment funding? How do I get access to that debt funding? Now you've got a place that you can come and we'll help you get there. I think I'm not mentioning any here, everybody that's sitting in the room, I know we all know what the stats are. We know, and again, God bless the guys. If it hadn't been for just a group of amazing guys that surrounded us and continue to surround us and work alongside of us, we'd never be here today. But if we look at the facts, historically speaking, it's been the men who have started, grown, and scaled ventures, that have run for office, that run countries. And all of that, of course, is changing now, right? But even though, although women continue to lead the way in launching startups, in the United States, we receive 7% of the venture capital funding, 5% of the federal contracts, and 5% of conventional loans. Okay? The loan approval rates for female entrepreneurs has been 15 to 20% less than it is for the guys. And then just 7% of companies that receive 20 million or more in funding, which is pretty extraordinary, between 2009 2015 were owned by men. Okay? It's time to change that, right? Now it's time. And what better time than now to have this opportunity to change this? There's no better time in the history of mankind to change this opportunity for women with everything that's going on. Okay? So here's something that I wanted to share with you, though. This is so interesting, and I said we're going to talk about courageous leadership. Because it was that group of people that were on that previous screen that when I left Dell and I started Empowering 1 Billion Women by 2020, I want to just give you a little bit of backstory on why we built out Mint Her. Because I don't know if any of you in the room know this part of the story, but in South by Southwest of 2015, that's actually when I launched Empowering 1 Billion Women on its own 2 feet. And as I mentioned, I went to Dell to learn how do we build out a global technology platform that could empower women around the globe, right? And part of that was building out a fund, Because as I shared with Michael Dell and Steve Felice, I said, you know, if we're really going to go out there and impact entrepreneurs around the globe, we have to really make some of this money we have available in our coffers available to those entrepreneurs who are trying to start, grow, and scale their ventures, who might not be able to afford to get into our solutions. And if we can make this money available to them and get them onto our solutions and help them grow, imagine the amazing loyalty that we'll build with these companies, right? But the fund piece was a critical piece of that business. That first $100 million fund that we launched, within 3 years, we almost drove $1 billion worth of net new revenue with entrepreneurs because we said what I just mentioned. Let's make this money available. And now we're going to give entrepreneurs the chance to start and grow. So I thought, well, let's follow the same recipe when we launched Empowering a Billion Women in May of 2015. We launched that in partnership with Dell with a $100 million fund by and for women entrepreneurs. Okay. Does anyone in the room know what happened? Anyone want to shout it out? This one right here. Not very many women applied. Yep. Anyone else? What do you think happened? A fund by and for women entrepreneurs, $100 million for you. And you, and you, and you. What do you think happened? Anyone else? Pardon? Say it again. That is exactly what happened. So I just mentioned, okay, this is just, and there were many stories on this. Program Focus launched $100 million credit fund, and then this is what happens. Literally, the women didn't show up. Not one. Not one. The guys showed up, and the women didn't show up. And I have to be honest with you, I actually found myself going, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Like, why is this happening? I know how much I've wanted this fund. Like, why aren't the women showing up? And what was interesting was that we had the fund, and then alongside the fund, we said we're going to launch these business-in-a-box services. Okay, and what the business-in-a-box services were was basically myself and 2 other people, seriously, basically saying, let's answer phones if somebody calls us and needs help to apply into the fund. That's what it was at the time. That's all it was. The women were blowing that up. We couldn't scale the business fast enough to service the demand on the service side. And it really caused me to step back and go, what is going on here? And I was getting offers at the time, you know, other global corporations that saw the success that we had built at Dell, and they were, you know, asking would I come and work with them and offering a lot of money. And trust me, my husband was not really happy when I kept saying, no, no, no. There's something bigger going on here. We have to solve whatever this is. Why is this happening, right? And that brings me to this, because that's when I realized something that, on the one hand, was one of those gut check, most sort of gut-wrenching moments of being like, wow, this isn't working. The flip side of it is, but what if we're able to solve this? Imagine the difference in the impact that we can make for women and girls around the world who are trying to access the funding. What's going on? And what I realized, just as the women were showing up on the services side, is that you all have seen that, and I've actually got it in another slide, so I'm going to get ahead of myself here, but you all have seen that stat, where when a new job posting comes out, like if guys meet 60% of the requirements, they'll show up, right? You know this stat, right? Women wait till they meet 100% of the requirements before they show up. So why is this happening? Well, one of the amazing gifts about being women entrepreneurs, a vice as well, we all have, if it's a gift, it's also a vice, but one of the amazing gifts is that we want to prep, we want to train, we want to know what we're doing, and then we want to step in and grow. You know what that means to investors? And that means to corporations who are trying to find access to you, or guys like Kevin Leary from Shark Tank, who says the only people I'm going to invest in are women. The reason he's doing that is because he knows that you are actually taking the time, energy, and resources to make sure that whatever you can do to sort of mitigate the risk, you're doing that. So that when you go and fire that bullet, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be successful. And when you add that to the fact that because as women, we are so excited to have our opportunity to gain access to funding to help us grow and thrive, that I know you're just like me, that when they said yes to me at Dell and gave me that chance as a lifelong entrepreneur to then sit as a C-level executive overseeing entrepreneurial initiatives globally for the company, like it seemed so crazy at the time, just like you, I was gonna bust through walls and do whatever it took to make sure that was successful. Investors, lenders, and corporations know this about you. They know this. So while it seemed like a vice at the time, this is actually your greatest gift. And this is something we want to build off of. Okay? Because I say, difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. And that $100 million fund, why weren't people showing up? And I just shared with you some of that. And as I was also processing through this whole thing myself, it made me look back on, what did I do when I started my first venture? Was I prepping, training, and growing, or was I just going for it? Like, what was I doing? And it was so amazing to sort of have this self-awareness that, you know, somebody just said it. I was in Florida with one of my colleagues. I saw her step in, Anna McCoy. We were in Florida just a few weeks ago, and I was sitting with some private equity guys, and they said, Ivy, you and us are very similar. And they said, your success, because you've had such great success in some areas, and for any of you who've heard my story before, please know at one point I was literally broke and homeless. I lost everything I earned and had to figure out how to build back. So I know what it's like not to lose everything and rebuild. Okay? But I say that because he said, sometimes your success can create these blinders, and you don't even realize what's going on because you've been in this spot of success for so long, right? And so when women weren't showing up to the fund, and I was like, what did I do when I was building my first venture? And I remember my mentor, a guy named George Kosmetsky. He was a self-made multi-billionaire, was the mentor to Michael Dell. He grew up so poor he had holes in his shoes, and he managed from that place to create these amazing technology ventures that turned him into this multi-billionaire. And he agreed to be my mentor. And the short of the long story of that, he agreed to be my mentor because I went to the business school here at Texas. And I came out of that business school and I knew he didn't have a female mentee that he could point his finger at and say, look at her success, and she came out of my school. So that was my pitch to him. I'm gonna go build the next billion-dollar venture. And he said, okay, that's a pretty crazy idea, but I'll help you do it, right? But literally, as I was building that first company, I would about run out of cash. And then I would go and meet with him, and I'd show him my idea, and I'd say, Dr. Kosmetsky, here's where I'm at. What do you think? Da, 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 da. And like I said, I told him I wanted to build a billion-dollar company. And he kept looking at my plans, and he would say, that's a great idea, but it's not the billion-dollar idea. Go back to the drawing board. Okay, next month. Here's my idea. Here's where I'm at. Da, 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 da. And he would say, it's a great idea, but it's not the billion-dollar idea. Go back to the drawing board. Now remember, again, I don't know about you, but there's one thing that makes me want to throw up, and that's when I'm financially stressed. I can handle pretty much anything else, but if I'm financially stressed, that adds a whole nother layer of stress, right? It's almost hard to build and be creative as an entrepreneur when you're worried about the finances, right? He knew this. He knew this. And I'm building that first venture, and building that first venture, and building that first venture. I kept meeting with him for 9 months. I literally was 3 days away from hitting the wall, being completely out of business, being completely broke and bankrupt for the first time. 9 months, 3 days away, when I finally showed him something, and he said, my dear, you have figured this out. I showed him the plan that I had been working on. And off that plan that I showed him, which happened to be on a napkin sketch, by the way, you've heard those stories before, literally, I had been just playing around with this idea, and I showed him the idea. And he said, can you turn that idea into a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to take you to some investors the next day. And the next day, I said, of course. Showed that idea to those investors. The investors watched it, shook my hand, and then left the room. And I said, what just happened? Now remember, I was 3 days away from running out of cash. 3 days away. And the guy that was with me said, hold on, I'm going to call them, I'll find out. And he called me later that night and he said, I have good news and I have bad news. And I said, well, what's the bad news? And he said, the bad news is they're not going to fund the company. And I said, well, then what is the good news? And he said, the good news is they want to buy that sketch from you for $2.5 million. Now, I often say, I'm like, if you ever come up with an idea, please, that you put on a napkin sketch and somebody's like, here's $2.5 million, like, please take it. We're all smart innovators. You're going to come up with new ideas. Just take it. I didn't. I didn't know what got in front of, got inside me. But I said, call him back, call that investor back, and tell that investor that if he does not fund this company now, he will never receive an invitation to come into this business again. Now, please trust me, I don't know what got into me. I was 3 days out of having no cash, right? But the next day shows up, and that investor walks in with the first $250,000 check, okay? As soon as I got that first check, Dr. Kosmetsky looked at me and he said, my girl, you did it. And he picked up the phone and started calling investor after investor, 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 investor. Within 7 days, within 2 weeks, we had raised more than $7 million for that venture. That was the first venture. And that venture was my first patent, my first technology company, was I developed real-time personalization software. So remember when the web back, like it was so hot, but we're still on like, Pine email and DOS systems, and it was sort of hard to get around the web. And so it's all old school now, but it was real-time personalization software using neural networks for the web, so that it could say, hey, Jen, you're back here again. Saw you were looking at this product. You might like this product. That's what that venture was, okay? But the point of the story is this, that man, Dr. Kosmetsky, he could have funded me any stage of the way, But he wanted to see a couple of things. He wanted to see, did I have it in me as a female entrepreneur? Now remember, this is 2000, so at the time I literally, I could throw rocks all around and not hit another woman entrepreneur. It was all guys, right? He wanted to see, did I have it in me to walk through the fire and keep going and keep at it and keep prepping and keep training and keep asking and keep hoping and keep working on it? Was I going to walk through the fire to make it to the other side when almost every other person would give up? Did I have that in me? That's what he wanted to see. And once he knew that I did, but he also knew that I had a plan that made financial sense. Once he saw that I had a plan that made financial sense, he was willing to not only write his own check, but start opening up, rolling up his sleeves, opening up his Rolodex, and calling all those other investors. This is critically important because when he's now passed away, and I made a commitment to myself then that one day when I was in a position to really, I always say, pay it forward, we can all pay it forward wherever we are in life. But when I reached a position where I could do it at scale, at impact, how could I help scale that mentorship that I learned from Dr. Kosmetsky in a way that would reach women and girls around the world and make enormous impact? How could I take that lesson alone and get it so deeply ingrained in women that you've got to, if you want to really build a company that can grow and scale, that you have to be willing to roll up your own sleeves, walk through the fire, do the hard work, and do the prep and training that's going to get you there. And the good news is, now there's an answer to it. Okay? I mentioned this before, that we opened the fund. It was like watching that stat just in real time. That, like I said, guys will show up if we meet 60% of the requirements. Women show up when we meet 100%. Again, why? Prepping, training is so critical to growth. So here's something about women that I found too, okay? 80% of women want help and want a mentor. And I get this too, like, thank God I was young and really didn't know very much, and I got very lucky with Dr. Kosmetsky, because I know for me, you know, when I show up in a meeting and it's all the guys, I want to show, like, you know, I know what I'm talking about, you know, but the reality of it is I don't want to show the things that I really don't know. And I say that, I think now I'm starting to get to an age where I'm like, well, if I don't know, I'm just going to ask. But the reality of it is, for most women, 80% of women want help and they want mentorship. The challenge is, though, that 80% of those women want mentorship from other women, okay? And the problem is, because less than 2% of women ever get over that $1 million mark, or less than 4% of us get that venture financing, I mentioned 7%, so the stats are increasing a bit, but less than 14% of us ever get on boards, there aren't that many women who've actually gotten to the place that the rest of us want to be, right? So this goes back to when I say I am obsessed over your success, I am obsessed as well about living out the calling that my mentor gave me, which was someday, some way, when I have the chance to do what he did for me, I'm going to dedicate my life and create a scalable system that helps women and girls around the world, because there aren't enough of us out there just yet to spend that individual time so that all of us can elevate and rise together. But now we have a solution, okay? So why does this happen? And I do want to, a couple slides here. You know, one of my colleagues, my new COO, she went and talked to some of our clients and said, why is it that, you know, as I mentioned, Dr. Kosmetsky did not introduce me to those funders until I had built the plan, the financial plan that he knew. Not guarantee that I was going to make it. There's never a guarantee. Investors know that. As an investor, I know it too. There's no guarantee that you're definitely going to make it. But we are looking at what does your plan look like? Is it solid? Is it stable? Is it operationally sound? Is this a person that I think is going to walk through the fire and bust through walls when everybody else says it can't be done? Do they have a plan that makes sense? So why aren't we as women showing up and even doing that part of it? And it comes down to three things. Number one is there's a lack of knowledge. I always said, you know, I wanted to be able to build a system that was almost like, where does the rubber meet the road? It's one thing to have a mentor that says, okay, let's talk and let's talk about what you're trying to do and we can have a chat, but then now what, right? Like, how do you actually, where does the rubber meet the road? What happens? How do you take these conversations and move it into, how do I make my company something that's fundable, that Dell wants to hire, that they want to give me money to? Okay, so we have a lack of knowledge of like how to do that. The second thing is this deservability and debt factor. I don't know about you again, but I've gone into debt a number of times and it's no fun. You know, there's good debt, there's bad debt, you've heard the whole story. But you know, if you're straddled with, let's say your financials don't look all that great, and mine certainly haven't many, many times, that's something that creates number three, which is embarrassment and shame. And this is something that, have you all seen Brené Brown? Raise your hand if you, do you not love her? Like, she is amazing. She's the person who put it on the face of the map that said, you know, we all have shame in our life. We all have these things in our life that now when we put a name to it and we stand outside of that and say, despite that, I'm going to give myself the chance to be courageous. I'm going to be a courageous leader. That is what I need in you to take the next step, to put yourself in this position to build these plans that can be financially sound and that the Dells of the world are seeking you out and the investors are seeking you out. And to put sort of a cherry on top of that, our new COO, Sandy Neiman, I don't know if she's here, but if she is, happy birthday, Sandy. It's her birthday. Okay, I don't think she's here. But Sandy reached out and she was asking some of our customers, why is it that you waited so long to kind of get your finances in order? And I so can relate to this. One of the women said, I've never enjoyed the tasks associated with financial prowess, which means I've used tax extensions nearly every year since leaving corporate America back in 2010, and I am still 2 years behind. It's embarrassing, and I have a lot of shame around my financial status and acuity, which means not wanting to reveal it, which keeps me in hiding, which leads to a host of other issues to contend with as I boldly step forward. Ladies, this is our time to change this. I mentioned I was broke and homeless myself. I've lost my money a couple times in building these ventures, and it's no fun. And I'm here to tell you, you now have a community of people who will not judge, who absolutely get that for women to feel that confidence and take those courageous leadership steps forward, that we need to prep, we need to train, and then we're going to grow. You would never show up to the Super Bowl or a marathon, or you would never show up to these things without prepping and training. Business is the same way. This, ladies, is where the rubber meets the road. This is what takes you from having an idea or a company that it might be doing well. Maybe you're one of the real lucky ones and it's doing great, without all this other work there. But 99% of us, we've got to really focus on how do we build out these financial systems so that we are ready to receive this money and we can grow successfully. Okay? So I mentioned that this is my mentor. That's Dr. George Kosmetsky. And he taught me not only what it takes to walk through the fire and keep going when everybody else said it can't be done and I was doubting myself, but he taught me something too, that if I hadn't learned, I was so grateful to learn this from him, and now I love sharing it with other women, and that is the deal maker mindset. Because there really is an art and a science to building business. And the deal maker mindset is essentially this. The deal maker mindset is, okay, so now you've done your work, you've got your plan, you're about to have your meeting at Dell or with George Kosmetsky, okay? And the reason that I keep saying this sort of financial acuity, this having that solid plan in place is so important, because people who make big things happen in life, deal makers, like I said at the beginning, they're looking for you. They're looking for other deal makers. The unsaid thing, though, is this. The way it works is this. What am I doing that's going to add value to you? So I'm now having my meeting with Steve Felice. How is my idea going to add value to him? Remember I said when I took Empowering a Billion Women to Steve Felice? And I also said to him, the only way we're going to reach 1 billion women is by building a global technology platform, and I need to get a mobile device into the hands of women all over the world. Okay? So Steve Felice is going, oh my gosh, even if she messes up but kind of gets there, the value to us is if those devices are Dell devices, imagine the money that can bring back to the company, right? Does that make sense? So the deal maker mindset is, what is the value to you? The second piece then is you have to be crystal clear on what is the value back to me? Because when you're working with a deal maker, they want to know, what do I get out of this? Because people who are deal making, investors, corporations, they want to know that you're going to get value and payment that is robust enough, if you will, if I can use that word, that carrot hanging out there for you is going to keep you busting through walls when things maybe aren't going the right way. So when I pitched that idea of empowering 1 billion women to Dell, the value back to me was what they were going to pay me for that. And it was quite significant. It gave me the money to do what we do today. Okay? But that carrot was big enough that they knew I was going to work my tail off to make this thing work because I wanted that carrot at the end. But see how it all ties to the finances? You have to, Anna and I were just talking about this. We just, like I said, just got back from Korea. And she said, when somebody says, what do you need? What is your answer going to be? What is that answer going to be? And it's always a financial ask when you're dealing with deal makers. And the third piece of the deal maker mindset is, what's in it for you? What's in it for me? And what is the time frame we're going to accomplish this in? This is really important because oftentimes women entrepreneurs, again, we're learning for the first time, we'll go and do networking and coffees and glasses of wines and, talk about our ideas, and then you walk away from it and say, well, what now? What next? and where the time frame is so critically important, time frame and deliverables, this is what turns your business from being a hobby, if you will, or a project, into something that has the potential to really be a robust, thriving, growing, and scaling business. You have to have timeline and deliverables around that. So that's the deal maker mindset. But everything ties around value added, which always ties to money in some way. Money in terms of making more revenue, efficiencies in terms of saving on money, which implies and impacts profitability. This is so important. Nobody told me this. I had to go through 15 years of figuring it out. But I put this picture here because this is from Korea last week. Notice the room and all the women in there. I was so honored to be asked. So we were meeting with the mayor of Seoul, and he's the #2 guy in Korea next to the president, okay? But the reason I wanted to show this picture, this is just last week. Ladies, things are still this way. But they asked me to sit in this room because they know I know the deal maker mindset. They know I'm an investor. They know that I mean that business, or I am aware, like they are, that business means knowing the value of money. The reason we were sitting in that meeting is we were talking about the North and South Korean relationships. How are we going to build better economies here? How are we going to bridge the two cultures? How are we going to create stronger opportunities for the women to be a bigger part of building a stronger society and economy there? And it all comes down to the economics of it. How do we empower the women to have the confidence to know that they can start, grow, and scale their ventures, right? Which led to this, and this is that award that they mentioned that I just won with Ban Ki-moon. The whole tagline of the whole award is business, a powerful force for good. A powerful force for peace. So here, when you think about what is your possibility and potential to take the idea that you have, and maybe you want to just have a business that is here in Austin and you're impacting the community. That's amazing, amazing. And maybe you have a dream to have a vision that can impact the world. People all over, 1 billion people around the world, okay? Maybe you're thinking about how do we create a global sustainable future, a more peaceful society? You sit with the people who, their language, they're saying peace. How do we create more peace? It all comes down to business. How do we use business to create more peaceful economies? And business is value and money. That's how important having this knowledge is. So I'll start wrapping this up here then, because, ladies, again, where I really want to celebrate you is that these things that have caused us in the past to say, I'm lacking confidence, I'm not feeling so sure about this, this is one of your greatest gifts. Because again, you are willing to prep and train to get ready for the growth. And when you do that, you gain the knowledge, you gain the deservability factor and the confidence you need. And that mindset of lack starts moving to abundance and surplus. Because when you have a solid plan around your business and what's the potential there, you're going to start seeing all of the things that you might not, your blind spots before. You're going to start seeing all these opportunities for how can I grow even more efficiently? What are the other ways I can drive revenue? Okay? And the reason this is so important for me, like I said, why I'm so obsessed about your success, is that at the end of the day, I'm called to do my part to create a global sustainable future for all of us, for our families, for our children, ultimately the world. And we know that women, whether you're trying to rub 2 pennies together or you've got millions and millions and millions of dollars to spend, you're going to reinvest 90% of what you earn back into your families, communities, and ultimately the world. Like I said, my husband can attest to this. It's very true. So the faster, literally, the faster that you are making more money, the faster you're creating jobs, the faster you're pouring into your communities, the faster you're creating this economic and social change. This is why you matter and your success matters so much to me and our whole team. 94% of businesses fail in the first 2 years due to lack of financial literacy. And here is what women who are experiencing Mint Her are already experiencing. We have 7,500 customers on this system. Over 1.2 million records in the database. So when you come in to Mint Her and you start telling us a little bit about your business, we can even talk with you and show you whether you can do it on your own, do DIY, or you can do it with a secret money mentor who can say, hey, here's how your business is comparing to other businesses like it. Here's how they're making more money. Here's how they're operating more efficiently. You gain that insight on the system. One company alone, we were just doing a test on them last week, we found that if they reduced their inventory by 2 days, they would save $2 million over the year. There's another company that was about to go and sell more than 50% of the company to a group of male investors to get the money that they thought they needed to grow their business. And when we were able to sit down with them and look at their business and say, oh my gosh, you're growing on your, you've bootstrapped this thing, you're growing on your own. Look at the numbers that are coming in. We were able to say, you know what, you don't have to do that. In fact, you don't even need all that money. What if you took a third of that and you borrowed it and you're not giving away your company and you take it as a loan? Here's the way you would pay that back. She was able to retain 100% ownership of her business and get her the money that she needed. And another one of our companies, Courtney Santana, I don't know if she's here, but Courtney started as a nonprofit company. And after working with Courtney, we showed her, oh my gosh, Courtney, you've built this amazing nonprofit organization. She helps, it's called Survive to Thrive. And Survive to Thrive helps survivors of domestic abuse find places for safety, security, job opportunities, that type of thing. And she built a technology platform so that she could scale to meet more demand. And after she built that, we said, Courtney, you have the secret sauce to turn that into a for-profit, license that out, and look at what you can do for your business. Courtney not only created a for-profit, she's now created a venture fund to help other women do the same. This is what's possible when you just say, I'm going to move past the embarrassment, shame, the not knowing, and step in and work with people who are like, I get it, because I was there too, and look at all the amazing things we can do together. You all have the power to change the world with your idea. I want to leave time for questions and answers, so I've shared a little bit about the success at Dell. Dell happened, you know, I said 15 years, I'm now in my 40s, so probably 15 years into my career is when Dell happened. And things just blew up and took off. But I was prepared because I'd spent all those years doing the prepping, the training to get access to opportunities like this. So now, I just want to summarize this up by saying, I really, really want you and invite you to join us. I really hope you will pick up your phones and text this number 66866. There's a whole bunch of free stuff in there. And then depending on whatever level of service you want, there are things that you can buy and levels of support. But we are there to help you be successful. And I'm inviting you to step into being a courageous leader. And the secret sauce to being a courageous leader is to just step in and prep and train, and this is how you grow. And a couple final slides here. If this isn't sort of like motivating enough, and I hope it is, I'm like, now is our time. There are over 20 companies just like Dell right now who have a mandate to allocate at least $1 billion in capital resources to you every single year. In Dell's case, it's $4 billion. Their biggest challenge is they cannot find you. There are lots of people that apply in and say, I want to be a vendor to Dell, I want to do this and this, okay? But they're not qualified, trained, and vetted, and so they're having problems finding the qualified, trained, and vetted deal flow. You come into Mentor, you get everything squared away, you get your plan in order, and you are ready. You are ready then to be matched. This is your prep and training so that you can grow. There's real money out there. And in addition to that, the other challenge that these corporations face, their fear is, okay, what if I then think you're qualified, trained, and vetted, and I give you $1 million contract? Their next biggest fear is, do you know what to do with it so that you can scale successfully? That's where having, again, the knowledge of, okay, so how do I get that money to help me grow and scale. We can tie you into investors and debt money as well to give you that money. But you got to know what to do with it once it hits your bank account so that you can scale and grow without any lag time. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So like I said, our goal here is to work with you and get at least $1 billion of capital resources, debt, equity, corporate supplier diversity out into your hands by 2020. Okay? Here are, and you guys can just check it out. If you text, you'll start getting some emails here. But there are categories here. It's really simple in Mint-Her. This is, you can come in and create your profile. Create a profile, and people with money can start looking for you, right? But if you want to now get ready and increase your chances, prep, train, so you're ready to grow. You can do it on your own. You can get a money mentor to work with you. And it isn't rocket science stuff. This is somebody who's just going to love on you and be with you and show you what Dr. Kosmetsky showed me. So that after those 9 months, and it doesn't take 9 months, you literally can do it in a month, and then you just stay on top of it after that. When you go to the second phase and you start telling the system some information about yourself, the system actually will give you a report in real time to start making suggestions to you. How can you improve your business and be ready to move forward? And then finally, the last stage is just full-on growth. If you're ready to really start tapping into some of this $1 billion in capital, there are opportunities for you to go down that chain as well. So with that, I will just wrap it up because I really want to open up some questions. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for believing in yourself, for coming and joining me and our team here today to be with you. Like I said, this is your success is what we obsess over. You are dealing with a group of women here who are all different stages here in EBW. Some of us have built these $100 million, $1 billion ventures. There's some that are, have hit the $100,000 mark or the $50,000. So all different ranges, all across the board. And these are all women and men who have come together to help you become a courageous leader where you can prep, train, and grow. And once and for all, we can change the stat on funding for women and together create that global sustainable future that we all envision. So thank you so much. I want to open it up to a few questions. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think I see a hand up, but the Slido, am I supposed to do Slido? Okay, Slido. Okay. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing. Can you all see that? Okay. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What was the moment in your life that inspired you to start this journey? Is that Tina? And I'm going to point out somebody because we're celebrating her tomorrow night. So you know how I mentioned amazing people. If you're with EBW, will you stand up for a moment? There are a few of you in the room. Jen's here. Tina Chen was the advisor to President Obama, the chief of staff to Michelle Obama, was the executive director of the White House Office of Women and Girls. And this woman has been part of this whole journey when she could have done a million other things because she knows how important creating this technology solution to help empower all of us to be successful in business is. And so with that, Tina, Pam, Anna, thank you for being here. We honor you. I just want to thank you. Jen. Okay, so how are you working to make sure women of color, queer women, and other marginalized groups of women are reached and supported within Mint-Her? Guys, we are colorblind. We are, race blind. We're blind to that in the sense of we invite you and we welcome you to show up. We've created this place. Again, it's open to all. Our target is women and diverse leaders, but we invite you to come in, and there is no judgment here. So it's really that simple. Can you tell us about your cape? Yes! Yes, so when I started empowering 1 billion women, the quick story is someone gave me a cape. And they said, this is your superhero cape. I did a TEDx talk a few years ago called Making the Impossible Possible, and they gave me this cape, and I was like, that is the coolest cape. I think every woman we all have our superhero powers. So what is your superhero power? And so now, when you join EBW, if you come to one of our events, we just had one yesterday, you get a cape, because we want to know what is your superpower. So that's what it is. So thank you for the question. What is the most inspiring success story that you have helped to happen? Every day is just this unbelievable journey. I'll even say, I even tear up, because here last week, winning that award was so amazing, and I was so honored on behalf of all of EBW to win this award. But the most inspiring moment of that entire week for me was a group of learning disabled young people who were under the mentorship of a mother and father who met these kids and said, we want to give them opportunities just like you're creating opportunities for women and girls. We want to give them an opportunity to build a life and a career, so we're teaching them how to be in the press, how to do interviews. And so there I'm standing with these learning disabled young people, and it was just the most extraordinary moment of the week to look at them. And as I shared with Anna, you cannot walk out of an experience like that, and I hope you will not walk out of an experience like today and expect for your life to stay the same. Because when you see something like that, where for all kinds of reasons they could have stopped themselves and not believed in themselves, they have these mentors who believe in them and who are helping them. That's what you have here as well. You have a group of people who know that if we're going to create this global sustainable future, it's happening through a new set of eyes, and that's the eyes of women. And that is why your success is so, so important. But that was the most recent. What's next for you? What are your long-term goals? Thank you. I feel like I am in the Super Bowl right now, and we got to win the game. So, when I heard the call to empower 1 billion women by 2020, it was not empower 1 billion women. It was empower 1 billion women by 2020. I will admit I've given myself to Q4 of 2020. God bless that we have Anna McCoy here, who is the CEO of the EBW Foundation, because the way that we operate is our for-profit side develops all of these innovations and technologies with the goal to help 1 million women get over the $1 million annual revenue mark per year and allocate this $1 billion of capital resources. And we take a percentage of everything we earn and we reinvest it back into our nonprofit, which develops mobile apps for women and girls around the world in developing countries. And through our partnerships with companies like Dell, this is how we'll reach the 1 billion women. So I'm very, very focused on that. I've been asked about some things in the future post-2020, and I'll be excited to look at that once we reach the 1 billion women goal. So please help me get there, because I can't do anything else till I reach the 1 billion women. Thank you, Dante. You are amazing. Is MidHer open for women all over the world? Yes, it is. And I am from the Netherlands. Would love to join. Thank you. If you all are, two things. One, our Amsterdam chapter of Empowering 1 Billion Women just opened, if you happen to be from Amsterdam. But number two, I do want to open up an invitation. We do have Empowering 1 Billion Women. They're called empowerment circles. But if you are someone in this room who wants to be a courageous leader and start walking down this path of starting, growing, and scaling your venture, and you want to step past that embarrassment or whatever else might have been going on with the funding, or you just didn't know, and you want to walk with us, I invite you to come up to the front after, because we want to roll out the MidHer circles that are all about financial empowerment, financial literacy, to connect you into this $1 billion of capital resources so that you have local groups in your communities. So if you would like to be part of launching one or seeing that happen, please come up and see us, and you'll get mentorship from me and the leadership team here at Empowering 1 Billion Women, and we will help you move that forward. You can also email Emra, E-M-R-A, at EBW2020.com if that's something of interest to you. And that is open to the men too. Again, We welcome the men to lock arms with us and walk alongside and do this together. So with that, thank you so much for an amazing time with you, an amazing day. I wish you just the greatest success. And again, we're just so honored that you're here with us today. Can't wait to see you and meet her. And come and join us. We've got a national conference in November. All the ladies and men get together and start a circle if that's something that you're so inspired to do. We'd love to do it with you. Thank you.